don't have, and other teams don't have at the start of the voluntary offseason. So for them not to be there, I think is a big mistake. And it's also, when you're given that kind of money, when you're given that kind of commitment, when you're given that type of welcome, I think it's the right thing to do, to show up and show the city, to show the coaches, to show the owner that you have that commitment. And I understand that guys have a process in the offseason, and I understand that everybody has a different way of getting ready. I totally appreciate that. But you also can give back something, at least initially, and this opportunity for them, not even for the team, is unique.
And the coaches, bosses, the owners had the opportunity, when they locked the players out, to make this mandatory. They had the opportunity to lengthen, not shorten, the offseason. They had the opportunity to have training camp be longer, to have more padded practice, do a lot of things. And instead, at every turn, the owners said, no, 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 we want to keep as much money as possible. Players said, we don't want you to cut our portion of the salary cap. No, 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 we want as much money as possible. And the players then said, well, then what can we get if you're going to take away from the pie, our portion of the pie? And the owners said, the coaches, bosses, we'll make your offseason shorter. We will make fewer things mandatory. We will have fewer padded practices. We will make your work conditions more conducive for a long career or for just a happier family life. And the players said, we'd rather have money, but we'll take that. And instantly what happened? The coaches and a lot of folks in the media then start pressuring the players to not take the thing they got in the negotiation. And I just won't be a part of it. If it was supposed to be mandatory, they could have made it mandatory. Players would have agreed to nothing but mandatory off seasons for 52% of the pie. Instead, it went from 50 to 47%, and now we get more time off. And yeah, it would be better for Adam Gase. Talk to Woody Johnson. Talk to your owner, because another deal is going to be coming up here in a few years, and give players more money. But until that happens, to me, the way it should be reported is, look at the guys that did show up that didn't have to. Rather than being reported, look at these handful of guys who didn't show up, which is their absolute prerogative.
Look, these two guys have gotten a lot of money, and so the CBA has worked out for them. And we could go back to the CBA and look at the exact rules of each different issue and say, this is his right, this is the owner's right. I get that too. All I'm saying is, for this camp, it's a unique opportunity for these two players to immerse themselves in the playbook, to immerse themselves with their teammates, to have some coaching in the classroom and on the field. And it's okay to give back. And I don't disagree with you. If it's a negotiated right, you can take advantage of that. But this is a different dynamic, and it's okay for them to give back to the city and the owner and the people that are committed to them.
But also, these two athletes specifically are coming off years where one didn't play football at all, and there was some negative clouds surrounding that. One had an issue with the team, rightfully or wrongfully, whereby the general manager just said they had a culture problem. Again, rightfully or wrongfully, whether it was warranted or not, both of them looking for a second chance to make a first impression with a new organization, a new offense, you know, new quarterbacks, young quarterbacks. It would be important, and I think it would be great optics for both of these guys to show up. They don't have to do it for their entire careers, and I get with other athletes who've been there, who know the offense, who know the coaches, it's a different story. But these two specifically, you don't get a second chance to do something and to ingratiate yourself into the city like this, then showing up, and maybe then we don't do a 15-minute segment on why these two specific athletes didn't show up.
Well, this is the thing. I've been doing TV a lot longer than you guys as far as the NFL. In every offseason, we have a question like this. So it's not nothing new. Even when the collective bargaining agreement was something different. As far as guys participating in off-season workouts, how important is it? And it's just based on what's your philosophy. The thing that's different about football, because yes, it's collectively bargained. Yes, it's voluntary. Yeah, but everyone does things outside their job description. I got a sales conference I got to go to this afternoon. You going? No. No, you going, Jen?
I won't be there.
No, but I will be there. And because what this show requires, myself, there's going to be some extra things that I'm going to have to be able to do, and that's the same thing you want your star players to do. The difference in this one is, this was their first opportunity. Regardless of what season they came off last year, they're going into a new environment. Now, Odell was there the first day. him and his coach had agreed upon something because the coach said, I don't have a problem with it. So you can't have a problem when the coach is not requiring a guy to be there. Now, Adam Gase, that's something different. When you're trying to, and what coach is alluding to, the new coaches, when you take over a team, the NFL grants you an extra week to be able to practice. So both of these teams were granted that extra week. You could go in there, send a message to your teammates by your participation, but from a working standpoint, these guys don't have a reputation of being lazy. And I know that once you come into an NFL locker room, if it's the first day or if it's the day before the season starts, NFL players don't care that much. So the guys who you respect, they don't care that much that he's there for minicamp or not. You're talking about people outside the locker room. So a lot of times the players, they don't look at it as far as people outside the locker room, people outside the organization. What do the people in the organization think? And if the people in the organization are okay with it, then the player typically is okay with it.
And to me, this is an opportunity for them. All the other guys who don't have new head coaches can't be in the playbook if they're at a new team. They can't
Right.
spend time in the classroom. They can't work with other players. They can't work against the defense. This is a unique opportunity for both these guys to get a jump start on the information. And do I think they'll be physically prepared at the start when it's mandatory? Absolutely. Do I think they both know how to do those things? Absolutely. Do I think this would help them from a mental standpoint, from a chemistry standpoint with their players, from a, hey, thank you for believing in me standpoint, for the city, the fan, the owner? And what are we talking about, 3 days? 3 days? Like, where you got to leave Las Vegas for 3 days to come in and say, hey, I'm with you guys. I'm in this.
Yes.
I'm in this with you.
So, see, you mentioned that you're doing something that's not mandated by your contract today because the people that you work for want you to do it. It would be helpful to them. And I think most people watching, you and I talked about this off the air, do things for their bosses, most people, that they don't have to do, that are not mandatory. But when you have the environment and the relationship between the players' union and the league that we have in the NFL, where there is not a lot of give on the other side. You want to miss practice? You want to miss a day of training camp because your kid's graduating? It's $35,000. Oh, we shame guys if they miss a game for the birth of a child.
Just the specific instance about their image.
But this is the thing, Nick. I think you're taking it too much on the labor, like as if Odell negotiated the collective bargaining agreement, like L. Bell negotiated. These guys aren't looking from a labor standpoint, labor and the NFL, the agreement. They're looking at, you know, man, what's best in the offseason? I like to be able to spend time here compared to, oh, we collectively bargained this.
Right, but Le'Veon did just, not Odell, he did just negotiate a contract with this team. And correct me if I'm wrong, they can put in big bonuses about how much of the offseason you participate in. They can trigger guarantees based on how much of the offseason you participate in. If this was super important to the Jets, they could have done that. Odell told them his first day there, I'll show up to the first, we talked about this. First, you got to do a press conference at some point, the jersey, the whole thing. Do it the first day of the offseason, then I'm gone. Like, this is their absolute prerogative. I understand your point that in a perfect world, is it the best thing for the Jets and for the Browns that these guys are there? Yes, of course. But are the Jets and the Browns organizationally asking themselves the question 6 months from now or a year from now, is this the best thing for Odell? We can't have, or the best thing for Le'Veon. We can't have it to where the organization's number one responsibility is to the organization and the player's number one responsibility is to the organization. There has to be the allowance for the player to say, what's best for me? What's best for my process? And that's what this is.
When you bring up graduation and the birth of a child, it's not mandatory that the team finds you for those things. And there's a lot of give and take between organizations and players on things of a personal nature. And you can go hard on anything you want to that's mandatory, but you can also come back. And it's give and take. And I don't think it's too much to ask someone to show up for 3 days.
No, it's not.
And look, is it his right not to? Absolutely. Is Kinchin going to say that it bothers him? No. Does it bother him? I would imagine it probably bothers him. But at the end of the day, it's just about good faith and establishing a good relationship. And
it does not make that first-time coach job easier.
No, he's got to answer a ton of questions,
Yes.
and everybody in the locker room is looking at him going, well, it meant enough for me to show up, I guess.
When Denny Green took over the Vikings, I showed up at minicamp. After that, I was not at minicamp. We drafted Randy Moss. I was at minicamp to be able to introduce the team to him, so he was, because I knew it would make those people. So this is team sports.
Yes.
This is not labor. This is team sports. And I'm going to do a bunch of things for my teammates, and that coach is my teammate. So I'm going to do things for them that I typically wouldn't do.
All right. Coach, thanks so much for joining us. Much appreciated. Coming up, how much of a hit was last night's